In this video, I want to talk about storage accounts in Azure. So storage accounts are very useful to keep in all your data. I mean, you can't just put everything in your virtual machine and just rely on virtual machine. What if something happened with your virtual machine? What if your virtual machine goes down and you won't be able to, access your data? So Azure cloud service use storage. So today we're going to talk about the storage accounts in the storage services in Azure. So let's start. Let's see how that works. Okay, let's talk about storage. Okay, so we have types of storage services. So we have basically four type of storage services. First of them is called blob storage. Next one is called table storage. Third one is called queue storage, and another one is called file storage. So there we have different kinds of storage services we can use in Azure portal. So let's talk about the very first one, blob storage. So the blob storage, we basically store old videos. This is normally known as object storage for cloud, for example, videos, data, etc. So maybe let's type it here, maybe. So this is object storage for cloud, for videos, images, etc. So for this purpose we use a blob storage. Table storage is where you keep all your SQL kind of data, or you have an Excel sheet where you have written so many datas. So for that purpose you use the table storage. And if we talk about the queue storage, queue storage is that if one component sent a message to another component, he will send that message to the queue storage, and then from queue storage he will then send it to another component. So this is what we do in queue storage. And then the file storage, what the name says, is we use it for the file storage. So hopefully you understand of these four storage services. What if we talk about maybe a blob storage actually? This is more commonly used one. So if you talk about blob storage, so there are actually three type of blob storages. One of them is called block blobs. The next one is called pen blobs, and there's another one called page blobs. So in the blobs, this is used for storing text and binary data. So if we're using a blob storage, we can use a block blobs. This is used for storing the text and binary data. If we talk about the pen blobs, this is used for logging data. So any logging data you have or logs while you're capturing something or doing something, then you can keep all your logs in append blobs. And there's the last one which we use for this is used for storing VM machine hard drives. Machine hard drives, like virtual hard disk actually. So for virtual hard disk we use a page blob for Azure VM. So we use this for a blob storage, and this is as a more common usually one. So hopefully you understand what I've said so far is there are 4 types of storage services: blob storage, table storage, queue storage, file storage. Blob is used for unstructured data like videos, images. Like if you have so many YouTube videos, this is very raw data is kept. For instance, if a virtual machine goes down, your storage account will still have that. And then table storage, with the name says, will keep all your SQL data, any tables or data you've got. You can save in that. Queue storage is to send a message from one component to another component, which goes to the queue storage, and which then sent to another component. File storage, where you can save all your storages. And then I talked about this particular blob storage. It has 3 kinds: block blobs, append blobs, and page blob. Block blobs, which is actually used for capturing all of your binary data and like text data. And append blob, you use all your logging data. And page blob, this is used for virtual machine hard disks. So I don't think so there's any more explanation needed for that. It is itself is quite easy to understand. Now there's another thing in storage account which we call replication techniques. So this is what we use when we create our storage account. So there are 6 types of replication techniques which we used. In the previous lecture we talked about availability sets and availability zones. That's kind of similar to that, but that's used for virtual machines. But in here we're going to talk about the 6 replication techniques. First of them is called LRS, which means local redundant storage. If you remember your availability sets, that in virtual machine, if one machine goes down, we have options that it can be saved in 3 different places. We can initiate three virtual machines to save our data. This kind of works the same way. So here data is replicated synchronously 3 times within the physical location in the primary region. So if you have one data center, it will replicate 3 times in that primary region. So if one machine goes down, you'll have 2 other storage accounts that will have your data saved. So here data is replicated 3 times within physical location in the primary region. So hope you understand what LRS means, and this is most commonly used one. So again, here data is replicated 3 times within physical location in the primary region. So you just have to add the words synchronously, so then you remember that. Okay, hopefully you understand this one. Now talk about the next one. Is we have the ZRS. With the name it says, it's known as zone redundant storage. So again, this comes from the availability zone we studied previously in our virtual machine. Zone redundant is like if you have three different data centers. If you know about the virtual machine, the availability zone, if one goes down, we'll have two more availability zone where we can pick up the data. This is same, but in this one the data is replicated synchronously in three Azure zones. In the primary region, data will present even it is failure on one data center. So if one data center goes down, you'll be able to pick up your data on two different data centers but in the same region. So say in central US you have three zones. So if one goes down, you'll be able to pick up from two different data centers. So in here we can say here data is replicated 3 times. Sorry, I'm always bad in spelling with this, so probably just paste this synchronously 3 times within physical three times in the primary region. And in this one, say data will present, or you'll be able to access it basically even it is failure in one data center. So basically if one data center goes down, you'll be able to pick up from another data center. So you'll have two choices, two more data centers available. So hopefully you're clear on local redundant storage, which is the same physical location but replicated 3 times. And zone redundant storage, it will be replicated 3 times in the same region but 3 different data centers if available in that region. Now let me talk about the I think this one is called GRS, and it is called geo-redundant storage. So with the name says, here data is replicated 3 times synchronously in the primary region, and then it is also replicated synchronously to a secondary region. So in this one you can also be able to get the data in a secondary region. The secondary data is only available in this GRS. The data will be only available to the second region if the first region has gone down. So in this one here, what we're gonna say is here the data is replicated. Here data is replicated 3 times synchronously in the primary region, and then does that in primary region, and then it is replicated synchronously to second region. But it will only be available in secondary region if the data goes down in first region. So in geo-redundant storage, your data will be available across two different regions. That's what's called geo-redundant storage. So if in one region your data goes down, you'll be able to pick it up from the second region. But bear that in mind that it will only be available in a second region if the first region has gone down. So so the next one is kind of similar, which is exactly the same. We type GRS, it's simple, but what we do is we say RAGRS, which then means it comes the same. So we type it here, geo-redundant, but we say read access geo-redundant. So in read access geo-redundant, it is the same as we mentioned above, that the data is replicated 3 times synchronously in a primary region, and it is also replicated synchronously to the secondary region. The only difference is we do not it doesn't have to be available if the first region goes down. It will still be available in a secondary region, but the read access only. In the first one and the third one, it will be only available if the data goes down, but in the fourth one, you will still have the data available in a second region, but only the read access only. So here what we can say is, okay, I can just save myself and do a copy paste which I've written already, and then just type it here. And here data is replicated 3 times synchronously in the primary region. Sorry, I make so many mistakes. Region, then it is replicated synchronously to secondary region. As you can see, even if the primary region is available, we can have read-only access to the secondary region. So I hope this was easy to understand. Now talk about the next one is GZR, as we call it, GZRS. You can see what is ZRS. It's a zone redundant storage, but then you have G, so it will be geo zone redundant access only. So let's type it first, geo zone redundant access redundant storage, sorry. So in geozone redundant, here that data is replicated 3 times synchronously in 3 Azure zone, and in the primary region, other than that, data is getting replicated to secondary region synchronously as well. So you be able to so what we do is just a minute. Here data is replicated 3 times synchronously in 3 Azure in the primary region, other than the data is getting replicated to the secondary region. And let's just type this one here. I've written quite fast, that's why I make some mistakes. So here data is replicated 3 times synchronously in 3 Azure zone in the primary region. Other than that, data is getting replicated in secondary region in like geo zone redundant storage. And the next one would be kind of same as the step 3 and 4. We just have to add read access, and then in this time, well, in this one it will only available to the next geo zone redundant storage when the first one goes down. And so in this one you can just add read access, so basically you will have the same data available but only in a read access. So if I just use copy, let's call it geo zone redundant storage, copy that, I can just simply call it read access. Okay. Okay. So here data is replicated 3 times synchronously. Again, the same as above, but in this one we have the read access, secondary region. So hopefully this was easy to understand. Let's give it a small overview again to understand again. So the first one, we have the local redundant storage. So here data is replicated synchronously 3 times within a physical location in the primary region. So it will be in the same physical location but replicated 3 times. So if one storage goes down, you have the option to pick up from the next one. Next one is called zone redundant storage, ZRS. So in here, data is replicated synchronously across 3 Azure availability zone in the primary region. This is good when you want to have data present even in the event of a data center failure, just like mentioned. Next one, third one, we talked about geo redundant storage. Here data is replicated synchronously 3 times in the primary region and then replicated asynchronously to the secondary region. So it will have the data in our physical primary region, and then it will replicate the same in the secondary region. Next we talk about same way. If you talk about third, that it will be available in secondary region, but we won't be able to access it till the data goes down. But the read access geo redundant storage, which is RAGRS, here data is replicated synchronously 3 times in the primary region and then secondary region, and here data is available as in a read-only purpose. So you will still have that data available. In the fifth one, you talk about geo zone redundant storage. So in here, data is replicated synchronously across 3 Azure availability zones in the primary region and then replicated asynchronously in the secondary region. So we talk about, the availability zone. So it will be availability zone in the first region, and then it will be available in another region. And after that, we'll have the same read access that in the read access we'll be able to get the access on it. So hopefully this was okay to understand. So we have completed the replication techniques. In the next one, we're going to talk about the Azure blob storage types like hot, cold, and archive tier. So let me clear this one. I'm going to clear this one. Okay. So in this one, we're going to talk about the access tiers of the blob storage. So we call it Azure blob storage, and then we call it access tiers. Okay. So we have 3 types of access tier. First of them is called cool, next one is hot, and the third one is tier archive. Now let's talk, sorry, the hot one is first actually. Yeah. Okay. So now talk about the hot access tier. So the hot access tier, this is basically optimized for storing data that is accessed more frequently. This can be set at the account level. That means that when you create a storage account, you'll be able to access your data more often. For instance, if you have YouTube videos, you have images, and we have other stuff, and you want to access it like a daily basis or more often, this is what you then normally use the hot access tier. Okay, sorry, there was a call, so I had to pause the video. So we were talking about the hot access tier. So this one, we say this is optimized for storing data that is accessed more frequently. Okay. So this one, you know, the data we access more frequently, and yeah, one thing to remember is this this can be set at account level. So when you create a storage account, you'll be able to select the hot access tier at that time. Next one, we're going to talk about the cool access tier. So this is also optimized for storing data, but that is for like infrequently accessed and stored for at least 30 days. And this can also be set at the account level. So the hot one is what the access more frequently, and the cool one is infrequently. Let me just probably use the same statement, and then here I just add infrequently. So this is optimized for storing data that is accessed. This is optimized. Let me just rewrite it actually. I mean, that will make more sense. So I say this is optimized for storing data that is infrequently and stored for at least 30 days. Okay, and this can be set at the account level. Okay, so we talked about hot, where we get the access more often, and in cold the optimization is very lower, and this can also be set when we are setting up an account. But the cost of hot is more than the cool. But with the cool access tier, the storage costs it will occur more the time you want to access the cool tier access. So for the cool access tier, the storage costs are lower than the hot tier, but the access costs are higher than the access tier. So basically, in cool tier you don't go often, but whenever you go and access the hot tier, the cool tier, the cost is more higher. So just remember, I'll actually paste one of these online statement here, so just so you can remember. So note, for the cool access tier, the storage costs are lower. So the cost of cool storage is lower than the hot. But the access cost, so basically when you want to access the cool tier, the cost is higher than the hot tier. So just remember that you'll have that. And the third access tier is known as the archive tier. So in archive tier, this is optimized for storing data that is, rarely accessed, very rarely accessed and stored for at least 180 days. Um, but this cannot be set at an account level. What I mean is when you're trying to create a storage account, you will only see hot and cool. You won't be able to see archive tier. You'll have to choose either one of them, and when you have the account, then you will be able to go inside the storage account and then create an archive tier. So just remember that you won't be able to create that in an account level. So I just copy paste my statement here and then read it again. So this is optimized for storing data that is rarely accessed and stored for at least 180 days. This can be set only at the blob level. So when a blob is in the archive tier, just remember that when we have the archive tier, you cannot access the blob. You can do that in hot and cool, but you cannot access the archive tier. You have to rehydrate the blob into either cool or hot tier to be accessed, and it could take you several hours to get it back to there. Also, the storage costs are the least when it comes to archive access tier, but the access costs are higher. This is kind of same as the cool tier, but when you want to access the archive tier, the costs of access is quite high. So I hopefully you get to understand the bit of storage accounts. We talk about the types of storage services, which is we talk about blob one, table storage, queue, and the file. And then we talk about the replication techniques, which is the LRS, local redundant storage. We talked about the geo-redundant storage. We talked about zone redundant storage, and we talked about both the ZRS and GRS read access replication techniques. This is to when some disaster hit, then at that time we will have our data available. So I hope that you understand the concepts of storage accounts. So in the next maybe lessons, we do few labs on the storage accounts, that how can we create a storage account and how could that work. So hopefully this video was quite good to understand. If not, please leave your comments if there are any more information needed. Thank you.